Welcome back to another podcast of Release Fishing. This podcast is going to be the first of many of our Brook Trout Odyssey trip. We took Route 6 across Pennsylvania
Started
for 3
in Scranton, the whole way across almost to Erie, and boom, baby.
We made it.
We did it.
We did it. So
Crazy.
This podcast is going to be what we did on our trip, what the fishing was like, Brook Trout wise,
the research
we did, and overall what a trip and an opportunity such as the Brook Trout Odyssey through Trout Unlimited provided us with. Yep. And it was something great. I hope you enjoy this, and
Let's get to it. Let's talk about what the Odyssey is, actually.
Yeah, I guess.
So the Odyssey was a trip that Trout Unlimited, I'm sure you guys are very familiar if you're in the fishing community who Trout Unlimited is. There is also a Five Rivers program that Trout Unlimited sponsors. Now the Five Rivers program are programs that are college affiliated Trout Unlimited organizations that there are 100 plus nationwide, and we chartered our Edinburgh campus through a Five Rivers program. So there's a national Odyssey trip where Trout Unlimited Five Rivers sends 5 lucky college students. This year was to Alaska. You know, they do a bunch of cool stuff.
They did, I think it was Bristol Bay. Pebble mine protection.
Right.
Research, salmon restoration.
Exactly.
So I guess Pennsylvania, they decided to do their own state's Odyssey. We applied.
We were the first ones ever to do it. The guinea pigs.
The guinea pigs. Pennsylvania was the guinea pig state. This is the first state to do their own state's Odyssey. Mm-hmm. And they came up with traveling across the entire state of Pennsylvania. It's actually Route 6. It goes from the one end to the other. And we did brook trout research, data collection, and of course a lot of fishing. We camped along the way at state parks, along with staying at, I think, 3 colleges. Mm-hmm. What was the colleges?
We stayed at Keystone College. We stayed at Pitt Bradford, and we stayed at
what was the third one?
Juniata. No. Mansfield.
Mansfield University.
Yeah. We stayed at a few colleges along the way. And along the way we met up with some really cool people. But yeah, it was a crazy trip. For those of you that watch, famous people take these big fishing trips, ours wasn't as grand as some of these, but
it was just like it.
It was just like it. It was really cool. It was just 4 college students. Two cars. Right. Yeah, I drove my truck across, and then we had a Jeep for the other vehicle. We're adults, but there wasn't any parental guidance, supervision, or any of that stuff. It was just us, 2 vehicles traveling across the state. It was awesome.
It was the most amazing trip I've been on by far yet.
Without a doubt.
It was just something cool to see how, your home state, you really don't know a lot about it until you travel and live in the wilderness for 3 weeks across it. It definitely showed me that Pennsylvania has more to offer than I thought.
Yeah.
Fishing wise and I guess beauty wise. It was just insane. If you ever get a chance, check out Eastern Pennsylvania. I'm from Western Pennsylvania, and I think Eastern has a lot to offer.
The fishing out towards Scranton and the Poconos is absolutely phenomenal. And if you are from Pennsylvania or around this area and you've never gone brook trout fishing, it's 100% a must. You need to go out there and get a small fly rod.
Just brook trout fishing it's awesome. Insane. The fish are so aggressive. Yeah. And you know what? I think we should show actually right now a little brook trout montage. This is insane. I feel so blessed to be able to film something like this. Just look what's behind me. How do you get better than this? So that just shows how aggressive and awesome brook trout fishing can be, what it can lead you to, and the amazing places that you could see.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the fish, they're just breathtaking. They're unbelievably
They're tiny
beautiful.
little gems that you pull out of this water that are the most beautiful colors you'll ever see.
I think something we failed to
ferocious.
mention, that's our state fish, is the brook
It
trout.
is.
It
is.
It definitely showed me that there's more to fly fishing other than catching amazing giant steelhead or salmon or whatever it might be. Catching those 14, even smaller 10, 8-inch trout were just, it was a blast, it was fun, and it just really brought the sense of fly fishing kind of to me. I definitely suggest it.
It brought us closer to what we want to do. We're making these podcasts, these videos. We want to be doing this kind of stuff. That was our first taste at, Hunter and I, given an opportunity to apply ourselves to our dream. We were able to film every day. We were able to, brainstorm about, storyboard videos. We were able to
make a full documentary. And whenever that's available, we'll probably post it to our channel.
Right.
It's a 20-minute documentary and is something to see.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. It's done now, but we're technically not allowed to air it yet until it hits, the sponsored pages and where it needs to be out for a certain amount of time, and then we can show it. So until then, we'll show you, we showed you the clips we have, but it was awesome.
It was a great trip.
And living, how was our living aspect? I think that was really interesting to cover. If you're going on one of these big fishing trips or you have time off, and you want to do something like that, there's a lot to take in consideration on, I think, how to be organized throughout those weeks fishing.
Yes.
It's rough, waking up every single day, early in the morning, fishing till dark, coming back with wet clothes, your feet are always wet.
Living out of a vehicle first.
Living out of a vehicle was insane.
That's what we did for 3 weeks, and let me tell you, it was definitely an experience. And I think that's where we're going to take this podcast, is that we're going to go into what our living situation was, how we lived, where we went. And so we basically lived out of a truck.
Yep.
All our gear was out of a truck. I had, a week's worth of clothes, my waders, my fishing stuff. Tyler had his clothes, his fishing stuff. But we had camping stuff, hiking stuff.
Let alone all the camera gear that we brought.
All the camera gear that we brought, because most anglers now are bringing cameras with them to take pictures or videos or whatever it might be.
And we both have DSLRs. I have a Canon 80D. He has the T7i. We have big DSLRs. We got tripods. We got mics. We got the shotgun mics, the booms, the GoPros. It really gets messy.
It all adds up.
The biggest thing I can recommend to everybody, and Hunter doesn't do this, but I think we need it, get a freaking tote. Go to Walmart, get yourself a nice tote.
Get yourself a tote, baby.
And organize yourself. Have a tote for your steelhead stuff, for your trout stuff, for your hunting stuff.
I'd use totes for my hunting stuff. I just don't apply it to fishing yet.
Yeah, he
apparently
comes
I have
in
to.
and chucks his gear in the truck and it's everywhere.
Tote is definitely a way to go to keep organized.
Totes
You need one or two. We had a few on the trip. 1 for our camping stuff, 2 for our hiking stuff, and 3, Tyler's fishing stuff. My fishing stuff was kind of laying in the back of the truck.
Let alone we had grills, we had tents, we had hammocks.
It just organizes your vehicle, if you have a truck, your truck bed, to where you just don't feel overwhelmed, because at first, the first week and a half in was fine, but as soon as we got to that 2-week mark,
we stopped carrying.
We stopped carrying. Me and Tyler were ready to rock each other one, because we were just annoyed with how messy each other was. The truck was just a mess, and it definitely made for an experience, but it would have made it for a smoother experience if we would have took in consideration what our living conditions would have been like. So before you go on that big 3-week trip,
even a weekend
live out of
trip,
the car. Make sure that you consider how much gear you're going to have and the best way to organize it. You can go to Walmart and go get yourself a $3 tote, $4 tote, or however much it might be.
Keep everything separate. Keep your camera gear in one thing. Keep your clothes in something. Keep your fishing gear in something. Keep everything organized, separate, and in containers. Label it, and that's the best way to keep. I ended up losing.
Oh my God, we've lost. I almost lost a GoPro. He almost lost an entire backpack full of fishing stuff because of how, I guess, messy and crazy things got on the trip.
Right. So we had our truck packed to the brim. You know, we were on this trip and I had my steelhead stuff. And the only reason I had my steelhead stuff is because we had some time off of Brook Trout, and we hit these ponds up at night and we were mousing for bass, which actually
turned out to be a huge success. It was one of my favorite. Yeah, we can actually, boom, I'll show it to you right now.
So yeah, that was our mousing at night, and I actually took my steelhead stuff out because I had a large tackle in there. I left it out there. Fortunately enough, the guy at the place we stayed at mailed it back to us, which was absolutely amazing. You know, someone could have just took all that gear. I had hundreds of dollars of flies in there. But yeah, your trucks get they get busy, you know, everything's thrown in there, you get lazy. Organization is huge on those trips.
Especially when you get to your campsite. Now, when you're camping, you know, especially on these kind of trips, you're probably going to stay at state parks. I did it when I went to Colorado. I did it on this trip when I was in my home state of Pennsylvania. Staying at these campsites, you know, if you're lucky, you got your grill cover that goes over your fire pit that they provide for you, and that's pretty much it. Something that I really like to do camping, if you can get a campsite with trees, is the hammock. It cuts your time down tremendously. Tyler actually got me into that. All you do is you need your rain fly. It helps if you have like a blow-up pad that you put on the ground. You put that inside your hammock because if it does get cold, that kind of insulates you. But hammocking is definitely one of the best ways, in my opinion, to go about camping. It's
comfortable too. I
love it.
You don't need a cot. You don't need a blow-up pad. Well, you can get one for your hammock, but it cuts down weight. It cuts down space.
I mean, the tent in the vehicle and the other guys' vehicle that we went with, it just took up like half the car. I mean, that just killed a lot of space. Me and Tyler's bed, I guess tent, what you could say, fit up right into this size of a shape.
And tents suck. When you fish all day and you're tired, you know, if you're moving to a new campsite, you do not want to set up a tent at night. In the rain, it sucks. With a hammock, just get yourself a cheap rain fly. You can even use a tarp. Put a rain fly, your hammock underneath the rain fly. Inside your hammock, put a Thermarest, you know, foam pad. Keep the heat in. Get a nice sleeping bag, wrap up, you're good to go. It is absolutely the way to go. It's comfortable.
It is the way to go.
It's one
of my favorite ways to actually camp and fish. I mean, then you come back, you have a lot of extra rope laying around, hanging around for your hammock. You can put stuff on it, you can dry stuff on it in the day.
Tie a guideline
up. You know, I had my water bottles hanging. It was like the most amazing setup. And that's probably one of the best things I can recommend from our trip and experience. And, you know, something that happened on the trip was actually a skunk. You know, we were all sitting around the fire. We came back, it was 10 o'clock. We made dinner, it was like midnight. We're sitting around the fire. And a skunk went across our buddy's tent where they were sleeping, ripped right across their tent, you know, and we were sitting there and we were hearing these noises and we thought they were frogs jumping around, but it turns out, you know, they were just mice running around the forest. I don't know what they were doing, but they were just ripping all around the forest, you know, across their tent and everything. And I was like, you know what, you know, good thing me and Tyler are sleeping, you know, 5-10 feet off the ground up in our hammocks. Like,
yeah, that's another thing.
That's another thing to keep in mind. You're off the ground. You kind of feel a little bit safer.
When you're in a tent, you get those greasy little critters ripping across you and getting into your tent and chewing holes and mosquitoes in there. And hammocking is the way to go.
It is the way to go.
That was our living
and traveling situation for the trip. I think that's definitely, you know, those tips that we dropped there are something to apply to your next big 3-week fishing, camping, you know, whatever excursion you might be going on.
Yes.
Definitely consider what we just covered because we lived through it, and that's something that was a big part of our trip that we could go back, you know, might have a cleaner truck. But that kind of wraps up our living and our traveling. That kind of wraps up this podcast. In our next podcast, we'll be going into our favorite parts of the trip, the fishing aspect of things, and
the research we did,
we did. So we'll catch you in the next podcast. We hope you enjoyed this, and
thanks for watching, guys. Hit that subscribe button.
Press that subscribe button, baby.
Boom, baby.
Boom, baby. Give that subscribe. Give it a like, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.